Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, wow, we're diving into a set of sources that, honestly, paint this picture of tech just moving incredibly fast. So fast it's causing these huge economic ripples and, frankly, infrastructure headaches. If you need the quick version on AI's speed, crazy market values, and the regulatory mess, well, this is your deep dive.
Yeah, it's a fascinating mix today. We're going from the real physical limits, energy, hardware, all the way to global competition gaps and even threats to knowing if what you see online is real.
And the theme, tying it all together.
Just the sheer scale of disruption. Everything's speeding up and the systems we built, well, they're struggling badly.
Okay, let's kick off with the gut punch.
Yeah.
The physical resources AI needs. This post from @Unusual Whales, it really made me pause. It reads, Sam Altman's OpenAI will devour as much power as New York City and San Diego combined. And that's per Fortune. Devour. That word just captures it, doesn't it? We're talking 17 gigawatts planned for data centers. When you try to actually wrap your head around that number, it stops being just a tech story. It's suddenly about basic infrastructure.
It absolutely is. And what's wild is how fast this demand is growing. Professor Andrew Chien over at University of Chicago, he studies this stuff. He's warned that at this rate, global computing could gulp down maybe 10, even 12% of all global electricity by 2030.
Wow.
Yeah. And that fits with what the IAA projects, they see data center use doubling to 945 terawatt hours a year.
Doubling in just a few years. I mean, grids can't just pivot that fast, especially if you're relying on nuclear or, renewables that aren't always on.
Exactly. And the cost, it hits you, the listener. Bloomberg pointed out these huge investments, like upwards of $850 billion. They could pump up consumer energy bills near these data centers by, get this, up to 267%. And that's not even touching the water needed for cooling. So it's energy, water, and cost. A triple whammy.
Okay, so if that centralized power guzzling model isn't sustainable, what's the quick fix? This next post, it offers maybe a glimmer of hope from the software side. Check out at Data Chaz. Microsoft just killed the GPU mafia. They've open-sourced bitnet.cpp, a blazing fast 1-bit LLM inference framework optimized for CPUs, an 82% energy cut. If that's real, that's not just better, it's a game changer, a path away from the crisis.
It's potentially huge for decentralization, and efficiency. Think of it like this. Normal AI inference needs high-res data, right? Like 32-bit. Bitnet lets you get almost the same result, but with super low-res data, this 1.58-bit thing. And it runs up to 6 times faster on regular CPUs, normal computer chips.
Which means?
That means you don't necessarily need those super pricey, power-hungry GPUs that NVIDIA is selling like hotcakes. It lets you run AI locally. It moves it off that massive 17-gigawatt cloud and onto smaller devices, more distributed.
Okay, so smarter software is one angle. What about the hardware itself, long-term? This next post from @ChumbaBupe, an electronics engineer, it sets up a really stark contrast. He shares this video of neurons and says, this looks like extremely advanced technology to me. Makes semiconductor circuits etched on solid rocks look like they're from the Stone Age.
Yeah, he's looking at this video of hippocampal neurons. They're alive, self-assembling, reaching out through these tiny tunnels. And he's basically saying, look how dynamic that is compared to our silicon chips. Ours are rigid, fixed, etched in stone, like he says. Biology is adaptable, incredibly energy efficient.
So like comparing a static blueprint to a living, learning thing.
Precisely. And the field trying to bridge that gap. That's neuromorphic computing, trying to build chips that learn and adapt more like the brain. Companies like Extropic, they're working on mimicking that biological efficiency, which, we kind of need if we want to escape that energy death spiral we started with.
Right, and that power demand, that energy spiral, it's directly feeding into this financial shockwave. This is where the money side gets really, really interesting. Look at this from @Cremuraku. NVIDIA's market cap now exceeds that of all of big pharma combined. I mean,
yeah.
Just pause on that. A valuation driven almost entirely by expected AI demand. One company worth more than 18 pharma giants put together.
It's pretty staggering. And yeah, a recent report pegged NVIDIA hitting $4.6 trillion market cap. That did edge out the combined $4.2 trillion of big names like Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson.
But the actual money they make right now, lay that out again.
Right. So that valuation's huge, but NVIDIA's revenue for fiscal 25 was $130.5 billion. The pharma companies combined, they pull in somewhere between $700 and $800 billion a year.
So why the massive gap in valuation? What's the market thinking?
Well, it's pricing in the future, obviously. But specifically, it looks like investors see NVIDIA as having this untouchable infrastructure advantage. They make the essential hardware for everyone in AI, OpenAI, Meta, you name it. So the bet is on years of near monopoly over the world's computing backbone.
Irrespective of today's sales figures.
Exactly. It's that massive speculative growth, not current earnings, that has a lot of people whispering or shouting, hype bubble.
Okay, so shifting from the top of the U.S. tech heap to a pretty stark global picture, let's look at what Willem posted. Europe now has 0 companies left in the global top 25. What needs to happen for that to change by 2030? 0, that number. It's kind of a brutal assessment of Europe's position versus the U.S. and Asia.
Yeah, it really flags a big question about Europe's structural economic health. The U.S. holds 18 of those top 25 spots right now, and if you connect the dots, the core issue seems to be investment. There's this massive, $300 billion annual gap in R&D spending between Europe and the U.S. You need that kind of money to grow big tech players.
It's not just cash, it's structure too. Environment.
Seems like it, yeah. Replies to the post and analyses like the European Commission's 2023 report, they really point to regulatory fragmentation as a killer. People suggest fixes like, unified EU stock markets to make scaling easier, or even 0 corporate tax on profits you reinvest. But without that unified capital and regulation, Europe just keeps playing catch-up in tech.
And that acceleration we see in value and power, it's mirrored in just how fast this tech gets deployed. This next bit looks at what happens when tech just outruns the law. At Coffee Break YT puts the stakes really bluntly for creators. Either OpenAI gets sued into oblivion for this stuff, or copyright is beyond cooked and the future is pure AI slop. Wow, that feels like such a harsh choice, doesn't it, for anyone trying to protect their creative work?
Well, the trigger here is Sora 2, OpenAI's latest video model. It can make these 10-second clips that mimic copyrighted styles with, frankly, scary accuracy. There was this one demo specifically that looked just like the cartoon Rick and Morty, so the tech can basically create monetizable imitations. That's the challenge.
And the immediate fallout from that.
You can see it in the legal filings. The U.S. Copyright Office. Over 50 AI-related infringement claims just this year. Litigation is ramping up fast because the tech enables infringement so easily at scale.
Okay, but now look how fast any control gets blown up. Kim Smith points this out. That was quick. That could cause some problems.
Yeah, this is maybe one of the most worrying bits we've seen. He's talking about a tool that popped up literally days after Sora 2 launched. And this tool strips the visible watermarks off the AI videos. So almost instantly, the main way to verify the content is gone.
Even if OpenAI uses invisible markers like Syntheday, if the visible mark disappears, public trust just tanks, right?
Exactly. It just highlights how far behind the regulators are. Tech meant to prove where something came from is immediately beaten by a simple tool. It makes deepfake risks so much worse before anyone even figures out the first problem.
And that crazy pace leads right here. At Aver Success posted this. LMAO, it just took 3 years. Right. That's referencing a prediction from only 2022 that said photorealistic video AI was way off in the future. And here we are in 2025 with Sora. The speed is just honestly breathtaking. And it shows exactly why our current rules, copyright laws, they're just buckling. We keep underestimating how fast things change. All right, let's switch gears slightly. Look at how global access itself is changing. Gwen Shotwell from SpaceX shared this huge connectivity milestone. Starlink Direct-to-Cell leveraging this spectrum is a game changer for connecting the world. So excited to work with telcos across the globe to get this capability into people's hands, literally.
This is genuinely a massive step for global access. It kind of bypasses the need for building towers everywhere. Starlink's Direct-to-Cell is using that 2 gigahertz spectrum EchoStar got hold of. And the key thing, it lets them run potentially 15,000 new satellites for texting, voice, data, straight to unmodified cell phone.
Right, no special antenna needed, no new phone. That's the game changer.
It really is. It just speeds up bridging that digital divide in places that are hard to reach. Takes away the friction of needing new gear.
Okay, so people are getting more connected, potentially. But how are they actually using that connection? Here's an interesting data point from @Stefanov-Schubert. It has gone largely unnoticed that time spent on social media peaked in 2022 and has since gone into steady decline.
Yeah, this is pretty significant. Data from GWI backs it up. Global average daily time on social media hit about 2.5 hours in 2022. And it's down to 2.3 hours by 2024. And the biggest drop, it's among 16 to 24-year-olds. They went from 3 hours down to 2.5.
So why? Is it just we're done with lockdowns? or something else?
It feels like more than just habits resetting. People talk about mental health concerns, yeah, platform fatigue, just getting tired of the same old stuff. But also, maybe attention is just shifting. People aren't just logging off. Maybe they're spending time with AI assistants. That's not really counted in social media time yet.
Interesting. And speaking of shifting attention and money, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase announced this huge play for mainstream crypto, basically trying to erase all the friction. Excited to be partnering with Asa Jama at Samsung to make crypto even more accessible. We're offering 75M plus Samsung Galaxy users in the U.S. free access to Coinbase One, 0 trading fees, better staking rewards, all baked into Samsung Wallet. I mean, that feels designed to pull in absolutely everyone.
The really powerful team-up gives over 75 million Galaxy users in the U.S. that premium Coinbase One access, no fees on some trades, better returns on staking, and by putting it right inside Samsung Pay, they're trying to make crypto feel like just another everyday finance tool, really pushing beyond the usual crypto crowd towards, regular folk.
Okay, let's whip through a few quick takes. These show the kind of political, cultural friction this fast-paced world creates. First, a policy snapshot. It's Gebbia, the Airbnb co-founder, questioning this move in New York. This is what New Yorkers really want.
Right, so this is a live political fight. It's that classic tension, equity versus excellence. Gebbia is asking about the mayoral frontrunner's plan to phase out the gifted and talented program in early grades. The idea behind phasing it out is concerns about representation, who gets in. But studies do show these programs help high-ability kids aim for college. It's a tough balance cities everywhere are grappling with.
Mm-hmm. Next, a big infrastructure story from @RussFought about funding delays. $2.1 billion in Chicago infrastructure projects, specifically the Red Line extension and the Red and Purple modernization project, have been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing via race-based contracting. More info to come soon from @USDOT.
Yeah, this shows how policy goals and big projects can get tangled up in legal fights and politics. This pause on $2.1 billion in federal money. It's because of legal worries about how contracts were being awarded based on race. So that instantly ramps up budget tensions and puts major transit upgrades on ice.
Okay, finally, we talked about extreme speed, exhaustion. This next post just feels kind of perfect, as a very British nails this mood. One of those days where you throw open the curtains and the room gets darker.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect little cultural sigh, isn't it? After talking about all this complexity and scale, it's that moment of burnout, maybe digital fatigue, that collective feeling after processing everything from 17 gigawatts to instant deepfakes stripping watermarks. Just whoosh, #tag outro.
That really was a packed deep dive. We hit the stunning scale of AI's power needs 17 gigawatts. And that related valuation shock, NVIDIA bigger than Big Pharma. Then we saw the terrifying speed of deployment soar, facing copyright fights immediately. Its watermarks gone in days.
Right. And that speed, the fact that tech can just leapfrog regulation almost overnight, that leads to the real vulnerability for you, the listener, going forward. So given that a feature designed purely for verification can be beaten in days, and tech adoption is just blowing past predictions from only a couple years ago, here's a final thought to mull over. How fundamentally broken is our ability, really, to regulate, verify, or even trust the digital stuff we see in 2026? What tools, what methods outside of slow government action are going to emerge to fill that huge verification gap?
That is definitely the question to chew on. Until next time, stay well informed.